Our first big-time celebrity, Karen Ceesay, Walking Dead, Stranger Things, as well as a host of other shows. Do you think streaming was a good thing for the industry? And then the other question, was it a good thing for people?
Immediately, financially, no, it wasn't great for talent.
You think the Cab could pull off its own film festival?
Yeah, I think anyone can. I don't even think people here outside of the industry even know that we have a film festival, and one that's been here for 50 years.
Isn't it like in the top 5 in the country?
Yeah, and it's an Oscar qualifying film festival. While Hollywood was here, it was really how Hollywood saw us and how Hollywood wished to present us. And now we're in a great place because we get to define who we are outside of Hollywood of the South.
This is our first big-time celebrity. We have Karen Ceesay.
Yes.
And been practicing that name.
Yes.
Some almost as complicated as Tismanakis. So you have seen her or heard her on Walking Dead and Stranger Things, as well as a host of other shows. But we were talking before the show how I just started watching Walking Dead and just started watching really Stranger Things. And later on we can talk about my favorite scene with you. But we want to dive more into what you're doing right now. So you're with SAG-AFTRA, and you can kind of explain to the audience what that organization is.
Well, SAG-AFTRA is the Screen Actors Guild and the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists. So it is our combined union who takes care of all of the faces you see on your screens, in addition to the people that you hear on your radio. So we are the union that makes sure that all of your workplaces are safe, that you're getting paid a living wage, that you have access to health care. And, I'm going to say it again, that you have a safe set, because we are in a right-to-work state, so people do not have to join the union, and they can still work union jobs, and they can still qualify for health care. And a lot of times people feel like, well, why would I need to join a union? I can work these non-union jobs and make more money. Well, you won't see any residuals on that money, and that money does not go into health care or your pension, and it's not certain that you'll be on a safe set, or if you have intimate scenes, that someone will make sure that your voice is being heard and that you're being protected. So that is really a lot of what the union does.
So how long have you been president?
6 months now.
6 months. And how long is your term?
They're 2-year terms, and I was elected in August of last year, right after I turned 55, right? 3 days after I turned 55. And it's been a lot of work, a lot of things, because the industry has just changed so drastically, so quickly in the span of 5 years, really, starting with the pandemic, changing how we watched. That changed how we watched television and watched movies, because that's what made the streaming boom, which affected our wages. And that pushed the strike, in addition to AI and the protections of our images. So,
Boy, that's an issue.
Yeah, so coming out after the strikes, the industry is just still recalibrating for what it looks like in the future, and it's been difficult for most of us in the industry.
Do you think streaming was a good thing for the industry, and then the other question, was it a good thing for people?
I feel like it's just a thing.
Yeah.
Immediately, financially, no, it wasn't great for talent. For me as a person, streaming has made my life easier. I get to watch what I want to watch when I want to watch it. I can watch all these episodes all at the same time. I can look at shows that I used to watch back in the day. So as a consumer, yeah, I love streaming. The rates have gone up. Like, I was just looking at my, some of my, the subscription rates. I'm like, this used to be $5.99, now it's $17.99.
Well, they're forcing you to have, like, we have Netflix and Hulu and Amazon, but then you're having to get HBO and Paramount and this and that. So, yeah, they're really forcing the consumer to get tons of stations. But we don't watch anything on a schedule. We're like, even if it's weekly, we'll wait and binge watch.
Yeah, I've been holding out. We were talking a little bit about Game of Thrones, so I've been holding out on the new show for a little while. I'm like, I'm gonna wait till all of the things come out, all of the episodes come out, and then I'll watch them all together because they're short too. Like I think they're half-hour episodes.
Game of Thrones?
The new show, yeah.
Oh.
Was it A Night of Seven Kingdoms? Not House of
Oh, the
Dragon.
new
It's
one.
the new one. There's a new one that just came out. Yeah.
I still got to go watch the original one, Game of Thrones.
My favorite show right, of all time. It was fabulous in every way. And you know, the end of television as we knew it, pretty much. The Game of Thrones was pretty much the end of us watching the weekly shows, and where primarily, you know, it came from broadcast to cable, but that was the end of shows that were kind of produced in a high budget and large casts, and now it's just everything is streaming, and everything is, it's very fiscally focused now, as opposed to creatively focused.
Have you got any hopes of getting on or want to get on? Show went right out of my mind. Will Trent.
Oh, yeah. I've watched that since day one also.
Well, Will Trent is
yeah.
neat because, as we know, it's Georgia filmed, Atlanta filmed. It's about Atlanta, about Georgia Bureau investigation, and it's kind of like our homegrown show about everything Atlanta.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool, kind of like our own Yellowstone, basically.
And also, it's by having a Latin lead.
Yeah.
It shows the diversity, more of the diversity of what Georgia is. Because I think a lot of times people think about Atlanta and they think about the civil rights era, and they think of it primarily in this black and white. People outside of Atlanta and outside of Georgia just see it strictly in this black and white lens. And it's like, no, Atlanta and Georgia as a whole is very multifaceted. My husband is an immigrant. You know, there's people from all countries all over the place. It's similar to how New York was at the last turn of the century, and people moving here and finding community here. And I don't think people realize that. So I like the fact that there's a lot.
It's diving into dyslexia.
Yes.
Because I know I'm dyslexic, and not at the level that Will portrays, but still. We're going to be diving into your family in just a minute, because I think that's going to be an interesting conversation. Well, tell us about Film Impact Georgia.
Okay, so Film Impact Georgia is look, I'm like, I wasn't ready, right? It's I'm forgetting my words. That happens after you turn 55. What's the word? You know, it's nonprofit. There we go. Film Impact Georgia is a nonprofit organization that serves filmmakers, local filmmakers, Georgia homegrown projects, shorts, primarily, and funds. You know, we give out grants to different filmmakers. So it's been, I think it started 2019. So one of the first big parties
right before COVID
was Christmas, the Christmas party 2019. That's kind of when I came aboard helping, and then stepped on the board afterwards. But they, Melissa Simpson and Molly Coffey founded that organization, and really with the focus of trying to find money for shorts. There's a lot more funding for feature-length projects, but it's a lot harder to get funding for short-form projects. So that's why they created that. They have funded, it's over $30,000, I'm thinking, where they have different cycles of grants. I had to step off I was on the board. I had to step off once I became president of SAG-AFTRA because I didn't have the bandwidth for both.
I get that. So what exactly would you think, or in your opinion, sets Atlanta different from filming anywhere else in the country, or the creative side of Atlanta and filming? What's the difference with our DNA versus other places?
There's a lot of things that go into that. If you look at, first and foremost, I hate the moniker Hollywood of the South. I hate Yollywood. I hate Black Hollywood. Like, I hate anything that makes us a derivative of another market, because I do think that we are our own independent, unique, consortium of talent. But if we look at the main module, right, like Los Angeles is what most people think of with Hollywood, and it's an industry where if you go out to LA, everybody is involved in the industry in some kind of way. Like your mail carrier, the guy at the grocery store, the person who's driving your Uber. Like everyone has a script or a treatment or, was that guy on such and such. You see all your famous people in the grocery stores, and it's just such a part of the DNA there. And people go there specifically to be a part of that industry. New York is a theater market. They'll do more episodic, and it's an independent film market, and a very scrappy, like, we're going to get this done. We're going to get this done. Georgia is new, right? We've had, the Atlanta Film Festival turns 50 this year. So 50 years of the Atlanta Film Festival. And I don't even think people here who are outside of the industry even know that we have a film festival, and one that's been here for 50 years.
And isn't it like in the top 5 in the country?
Yeah, and it's an Oscar qualifying film festival. So Chris Escobar is the executive director of that, and he's done amazing things. He's been executive director, I think, 15 years now. And so what's different here is that we don't really have a lot of political support. We were able to pass. Look, I'm making sure is it HB 101, 111? I forget the actual numbers.
Yeah.
But the tax incentives, when we passed the tax incentives, I think it started like 2008, and I think it actually passed in 2011. So we have politicians behind us. We have people who are lobbying for the industry. So I don't want to say that the politicians are not involved, because there's plenty of politicians that are really active in wanting to grow the market. But people aren't getting like tax breaks. Like artists aren't getting the same individual support on a political and a city level the way they are in other communities, right? And I don't want to Molly Coffey. Look, I'll say she knows everything about all this. I don't want to start speaking on something that I'm not, I don't want to say educated, but I don't know the details specifically to be speaking on it, what those political differences are. But that is a difference. There isn't a lot of knowledge outside of the industry. The people, in New York, everybody knows about Tribeca. Everybody knows about the different film festivals, and it's an understanding of it being an art market. Whereas I think here, being the South, our industry kind of came about through a real estate market, really. Like it came through real estate. And so it wasn't artistically driven. I mean, when you talk about the studios being built, it came from, hey, I own this space, and, okay, well, we turn it into a film studio because the tax incentives are here. And so that kind of shaped it being different in the way that it's supported. Right now, that is the big question amongst most of the leaders in the community is, what do we do now, right? Hollywood kind of came and they set up shop and trained us up and gave us good work, but then, left and went off to, shoot overseas because it's cheaper. And now we're here and we have a talent base in front of the camera and behind the camera. Our crews are now trained up also. We've got all these studios, and it's just, what do we do now? How do we make sure that homegrown work is getting produced, getting funded, having a place to be seen? And it's a difficult question. Like everyone is like, what do we do? What do we do? I don't know. But while Hollywood was here, it was really how Hollywood saw us and how Hollywood wished to present us. And now I feel like we're in a great place because we get to define who we are outside of Hollywood or the South.
That's true. We can set our own destiny now.
Right.
Set our own image and market.
Right. How do we want to be seen? How do we want to show the diversity of our community outside of this really narrow lens to which the rest of the world sees Atlanta?
Discover the Cab, we created a short through Craig Miller Productions. Mm-hmm. And right now we have the first one is completed called Beyond Unstoppable. And when you said diversity, it's a refugee soccer DeKalb-based film on a Somalian refugee family
Yeah.
who has the soccer connections. And we're trying to get it in the Atlanta Film Festival right now. But we also, I've got to go to Chicago in a couple weeks. We're in the African Film Summit. No, the Black Film Summit, sorry. Black Film Summit in Chicago. It's in Berlin and a couple other shows. So this was all, other than the leading actor, everyone was Georgia, was DeKalb, written in DeKalb, produced in DeKalb, and all the talent was Georgia-based, except for the one Somalian actor. So, and then we've got 2 other documentaries that we're producing. One's on Beaufort Highway, and one's on Sugarburt Boxing and Evan Holyfield, which is the son of Evander Holyfield, boxing. So we're kind of now going out, like you're saying, kind of create our niche in the world to market DeKalb with and show these different pieces. So I totally get what you're talking about now, and I probably wouldn't have fully understood it if we didn't jump out to do these different films. And then now I know more about Atlanta Film Festival because we're trying to get into it. And Tribeca, and you know of Cannes and Sundance.
Right.
It's off the top of your head, you know those. But there's so many others out there, and there's so many just in Atlanta.
And and throughout the state of Georgia. I mean, Bronzines Film Festival.
Then there's Savannah
Rome,
Film Festival.
Savannah. There's so many, and we have a committee with SAG-AFTRA, the Indie Outreach Committee. So that's one of the things too. Is I'm like, I want us to have a presence at each and every film festival here in the state of Georgia. Columbus, they've
That's
got
great.
their film festival. Because for us, again, being in a right-to-work state, a lot of times producers are like, oh, it's going to be so difficult to make this union. It's like, no, we've got so many different levels of contracts, low budget, ultra low budget, micro budgets. Now we just came out with the vertical contracts. We've got podcast contracts. We've got influencer contracts. Because again, it's not just about the money, it's about protection. Where is your image going to be used down the line? What is the protections that you have? Can this go towards your health insurance? Can this go towards your pension? Because if you have a career, you should be able to have health insurance. You should be able to have a pension. And these are all avenues for people to work. So the more and more visibility we have within the independent film communities, we can turn projects union. And then people can have whomever they want. If it's non-union, you can only have non-union talent. You know what I mean? You can only have non-union talent. If it's a union job, you can have union and non-union. And now with there being such a slowdown in work, people are taking jobs that they might not have taken 5 years ago, 3 years ago. So you can get that person that was on Ozark. You can get that person that was on Game of Thrones. Not Game of Thrones. Like I'm saying, Game of Thrones. Get that person that's on, BMF or P-Valley or, any of these shows that are shot here, Atlanta, and not worry about, I can't have them because it's not.
Marty, she just said we can get Sylvester Stallone from Tulsa King.
Kings. Right.
We can get him on the show. She just said you can do that, Marty.
And see, I'm a Philly girl. I'm born and raised Philly girl. So
There you
Sylvester
go.
Stallone is a.
You watch that show?
I do not have Paramount Plus. Right? I did audition for it.
Well, we won't be having Paramount Plus now that Taylor's got all his shows leaving. And I'm not exactly a huge Taylor fan, but I'm a huge fan of what he produces.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So Tulsa King is really cool, and with Stallone being here in town.
And then they have the spinoff coming with Samuel L. Jackson.
With Nola King. Now, I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
So I'll have whatever platform to be able to watch. And my other big favorite is Mayor of Kingstown.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So,
That's
but
Pittsburgh,
let's get
right?
into the more fun family stuff.
Uh-huh.
So you're in the film arts.
Yes.
And your husband's in the culinary arts.
Yes, but he works on sets.
Oh, okay. So he does both. So tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about that.
Well, and my son is a filmmaker.
Well, we were going to get
It's
into
good,
it. Like,
right?
where
Right,
was
the whole family?
Which way did the son go? The culinary side or the film
Both.
side?
So my husband and I met. This was when we've been married 30 years now, and
Congratulations.
thank you. we met, I'm pretty much straight out of college. I went to Spelman. That's how I got to Atlanta. And we worked at the Marriott Marquis, and I was a hostess, and he was a line cook, and we met, started dating, and the rest is history. But we're all foodies. Like, we're a foodie family. I'm like, I bagged him because I was cooking. You know what I mean? I used to cook all the time, and I can cook. I'm a good cook, but I get very offended when I cook and people are like, "Did he cook this? And I'm like, no, I've been cooking since I was 6, and but our son we're a foodie family. Like,
That's
we are
cool.
a foodie family.
Well, they're going to be perfect for my ending question, but that'll be then.
Uh-huh.
So your husband is in culinary, but works on the film sets.
Right, but again, he's not been working a lot either because everything's
Right.
been so slow. So he does catering, and
What's the name of his company?
well, he just caters under his own name. He's Karen Ceesay, DK's Catering, and
I've heard of that.
really. Well,
Yes.
it's funny because he's been catering stuff like when we talk about the Atlanta Film Festival. It used to be Image, Film, and Video, and so he catered things for Image, Film, and Video. Like, that's how long ago he's been catering stuff.
Okay. I swear I've heard that company before.
Okay, that's great. That's fantastic.
So your son came up in the world, and
Yes.
was there a big battle between mom and dad on which side of art he was going to go into?
Well, in the early days, when there was not really a lot of work, before my son was born in 2005, so before, I'd say for me, work took off in like 2013 for me. So those first like 5 to 8 years, it was just me and my kid, my son, and my husband was working so much. He worked in the hotel industry, so those are crazy hours.
Yes.
So he worked a lot, and I was home with our kid, and so we did a lot of arts. But my husband is very into music. He's very into arts. He's very into culture. He's from the Gambia, West Africa, and so we're a very artsy, international music listening, all types of music type of family. And even when my kid was growing up, it's so funny because I'm like, oh, there was no YouTube or no social media. We probably would have had a little page and we used to do sketches. I'd have a week where we're like, okay, we're just going to listen to Genesis this week, right? Okay, this week we're just listening to U2. This week we're just listening to, you know what I mean? So we would have things like that. But he started doing, I think in middle school, he started doing videos for projects, and then became known at school for being the video guy, and costumes. He did cosplay for a lot of years, and so his Halloween costumes I would make. When he was 5, I made him a Black Panther costume. So that was long before Black Panther came out, but I wanted to make him costumes that he couldn't find in the stores. Right. And so we were very focused on Black superheroes that, they weren't making costumes for. So he's been Black Panther, he's been Cyborg. I made him a Cyborg costume and then got to work with the voice of Cyborg, Kari Payton, on The Walking Dead.
That's cool.
So when I worked with him, it was like, oh my God, I'm fangirling. And then he did a video for my son and everything. So I got to take that video and my kid. It's like, these are the things that you don't think about. Like, I've been acting since I was 10. So I thought I was going to be a big time superstar by the time I was like 20, or 16. I thought I was going to make it big by then. I'm still waiting. But these are the things you don't really know are going to be benchmarks, or those things that I got this signed by so-and-so. Like, for Stranger Things, Sean Levy is the executive producer of that, but he also was the executive producer of Night at the Museum.
Oh, the movies, the 2 or 3.
Yes, and those, when my son watched those, when my son watched those, it's like they changed his life. And he became so into history. I was reading him, his bedtime stories were like, okay, we're going to read about the Tuskegee Airmen. We're going to read about, Amelia Earhart. That's what I was reading. Teddy Roosevelt is his favorite president.
Take him to Medora. There's a new Teddy Roosevelt museum in Medora, North Dakota, which the
Really?
entire city is revolving around Teddy Roosevelt anyway.
Oh, amazing. He is in Australia now for the
Oh,
semester,
well, it's better than that.
and went to New Zealand this past like a couple days, like a week or something. But he, and so that changed how he wanted to do things. Like it just mesmerized him, that movie. And Real Steel was also a Sean Levy production, but I auditioned for Sean Levy with the internship, and so I booked that, and that's kind of partially probably how I got Stranger Things also, because I had already worked with Sean Levy. But it was because of Sean Levy's movies that my son was kind of that his interest was piqued in history and in, let's put this in on video. Let's make this funny. He liked making characters and doing those types of things.
Very neat.
He doesn't want to be an actor.
He wants to be behind the scenes making the stories.
Yeah, he's seen the sausage being made. He doesn't. He doesn't have any views on that.
Well, you got to have that to get to great movies or the great stories. I
Right.
mean, you got to have that part. You don't just go out and start talking or whatever.
Yeah. So he loves that. He had a film that he produced that was in the Bronze Lens Film Festival, and I think two other film festivals, one in California, one I think in Boston. I'm not sure, but it's been a couple of film festivals. So he's going that route. But every time we talk to him, because he's in Australia, so he's 16 hours ahead, he's like making breakfast. He cooks, and he's been cooking since he was 8. So he loves food and is always very into, let me try this recipe, let me try this.
That's cool. He's doing both.
Yeah.
The creative side of both.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's very neat. So we're going to talk about, is there any big stories from The Walking Dead or Stranger Things? We kind of heard how you got into Stranger Things through the director, and we've heard about some of his movies getting your son into the industry. Mm-hmm. Is there any lasting memories from Walking Dead? I love the one where you're having coffee and eating with a zombie.
Right. When you're walking down the street,
yeah.
I mean, walking down on set, and they're like, "Hey, what's going on?" And they're like being painted, and they've got skin hanging out. Or you're just walking to get food, and they're like a group of people around a head, and they're like, "Is it gurgling blood the way it should?" Like it's a robot head, and they're like, "Oh, more blood." I mean, working The Walking Dead was an amazing experience.
Did you meet Negan?
Yeah, but like in passing, you know what I mean? Like, I also came on in a transitional period for the show, right? So I didn't watch The Walking Dead because I can't do horror stuff, even
Which
though
is funny,
I'm
you're in
horror.
both shows.
And I was in Rings, like the Rings sequel many years ago. And I'm like, okay, I'm in the first 5 minutes. I'll watch the first 5 minutes, but I can't watch Rings. But it was, I'm losing my train of thought. I get too many things in my head at one time.
That's okay. That's why he edits everything.
Right. Editing. Editing is one of the most important parts of the whole process, really. But I didn't watch The Walking Dead, but I knew it was huge. I knew when Michonne came on, because when Denai got cast and Michonne came out, it was really big within Black female actors, with Black actresses, because it was just this whole different type of character and a different type of way that a Black woman was portrayed in a popular fan-based project. So I was very cognizant of the show. There's no way you couldn't be. But I didn't watch the show, so I didn't really know anybody that was on the show, except for Melissa McBride, who played Carol. She was a casting director here. So we all knew her from casting for years. And, we here locally, it's like people work shows and then they go back to their regular jobs. Stars are not made out of the Atlanta local scene generally, not before her. So when she was it was like she's on The Walking Dead, I'm like, oh, yeah, well, when will she be back? I haven't seen her in the casting office for a while. And it's like, no, her character is huge. I'm like, really? So I used to be on the board of Women in Film, and we honored her, I think it was 2013. And, got to see her, and I got to meet some of the cast members then. But I didn't know any of them, except the guy that played Cuddy on The Wire. I knew him, right? But a year later, or I think it was 2015, I had my Entertainment Weekly that came in, and she was on the cover of
Oh,
Entertainment
okay.
Weekly with the cookies and flanked by Andrew Lincoln and Norman Reedus. And I didn't know their names at the time, but I knew they were the big people on the show, and she was in the middle. And I was like, oh my God, look at Melissa, this is amazing. And I took a picture of it and I posted it on Instagram. I'm like, when you see your girl, doing this or whatever. And I was on set a month later. Like
Wow.
almost to
That's
the
pretty
date.
cool.
A month later, I was on set.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, it just shows how you just took that extra effort and just, was congratulating a friend, and then all of a sudden, that's how things work.
Well, I have a friend, Christine Horn. She's the booking magnet. Christine Horn, the booking magnet. She has booked so many shows. She's on, I think, the new Star Trek show also, or whatever. But
Star Trek.
Right. I've known her for years, and when it finally came out that my first episode aired, she called me, and she was like, "Karen, do you remember when you cut all your hair off?" And I was like, "No." And so I was just like, I mean, I guess, yeah.
Walking Dead.
Yeah. Well, I had cut my hair like 2 years prior to
Okay.
that, where I cut my hair and I was just going natural. I wasn't, no relaxers or anything, not straightening my hair anymore. And she was like, "Do you remember what you said?" And I was like, "No." She goes, "You said you want to look like you could be able to be on The Walking Dead." And I was like, "I said that?"
Oh,
Right?
that's way too cool, too.
So it does show that words have power. And when you focus on things, they do come to fruition. I did, in the middle of the pandemic, when we were, just spending time at home, I recorded a bunch of like behind the scene things. So it's on my YouTube, where I was like, and this is the day that, we learned how to throw knives. Like, I've learned how to throw knives. And Zach Brown of the Zach Brown Band was who taught me how to throw knives.
Oh, that's neat, too.
Because he owns a company where they make knives and everything. So literally, it was so funny because we came on as a group. Hilltop came on as a group. And, those first couple of days we're on set and it's just like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, if I had not come on with a group of people, it would have been, or if I had been a fan of the show, like watched the show.
Been different.
It would have been a little overwhelming for me. But it was still like, oh my God, I cannot believe this, that I'm on this show. And all of us were talking, and we'd be like, okay, who do you think is going to get killed off first? And who do you think this? And we knew everybody had code names too, and what are you going to have as your code name if you get a code name? And every time we would get called for an episode, the whole thing is just reading to see if you were still alive at the end of the episode. And we text each other. We like, did you see it? Am I still alive? I can't read the script right now. And it was so much fun. And, when we're like, did you see? We're learning how to throw knives today. Now we're learning, I learned gun training. And I mean, just so many things that as actors we're learning. But the most fun I've ever had on set ever was the season 7 finale, shooting that. Because it was like Hilltop. And it was just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people because the kingdom was there and the saviors and the scavengers and Alexandria. Everybody was in this episode. Like, we had so many people. And
so I need to jump ahead and watch the season in the finale of the show.
Well, I mean, I don't know. You can watch things in however manner you wish. That's what's great about streaming. You can do what you want. But it was a lot of fun because we were just all still in this, wow, this is awesome. And it was also an opportunity. We were, because there were so many little pockets. This was like the first sighting of Negan too. Like, this was the first time we saw Negan and Shiva the tiger. Well, not the first time we saw, but Shiva,
the king and the tiger. Was pretty cool.
Yeah, they were there, and that was when Shiva was put in action, right? Of course, it was just a guy in a green suit on set, but we were sitting there, and one person, Carrie, she was an archer in there. She was the one that was, had the bow and arrow. And she was sitting there, and we're all standing there, and she's like, this is the first time I've been in a scene and there hasn't been a white man in it. So it was 2 Latin guys. It was me. It was Kari. It was her. She was a white female. And we were like, oh, my God. Like, the show was just so dynamic in its diversity in Black female characters, Latinas,
Yep.
just the diversity of characters. They had 2 deaf characters on there. My mom
Oh
was a
yeah.
speech and hearing specialist, so I grew up around the deaf community. And she's like, "Have you seen this?" I'm like, "Yeah, Mom, I'm on the show." She never watched the show. She was like, "That Dead show, The Dead, does that come on here?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's worldwide. It's a big show." Is it? I didn't know that. And that Things show you on, The Things? Like, that's how my mom refers to all these shows. The Things? I told somebody you were on that. He was impressed. Oh. But she started watching it this last season. She started watching it, finally,
Well, that's cool.
9 years later.
So now she
Right?
gets to see you on TV.
Yeah, yeah. I think she likes that she can brag about me. Like, since I had all the pictures from the premiere for the finale, for the series finale, she gets to brag about me. So she's like, they were talking about their grandkids and stuff. I'm like, my daughter was on the red carpet. So, it gives her bragging rights.
It's great for mom to do,
Yeah.
It's perfect. Mm-hmm. So, trying to think, starting to wrap up. So you mentioned you were a foodie, and the whole family's foodie. So I'm trying to direct this question to more of DeKalb.
Okay.
So where do you think would be you or your family's favorite place to eat in DeKalb?
Well, I mean, we hit DeKalb farmer market like nobody's business. Like, that was a major, every week we'd go. We haven't been in a while, but it's also, again, my husband's international, so you can find a lot of products there that he couldn't find at the local grocery store. The cost, we would sit there and eat sometimes. So DeKalb, the DeKalb farmers market, your DeKalb farmers market. Right. We were there all the time, and then also we would recycle there because they had all the recycling and everything.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, that's the top notch thing for me.
So do you have a favorite, like if you had friends coming in, what would be your must go to take them to see an attraction or to an experience or anything like that?
I should have had that ready. Right? Because honestly, I never know where to bring people.
I get that.
And I just started, sometimes I'll get on Facebook and be like, hey, I got people coming into town. Where should I take them? And then there's so many restaurants. And right now, so many restaurants are closing, too, which is so sad. And it's hard to say because I, a lot of times, would take people we'd go the civil rights route, right, and, MLK area. Right. My mom, of course, wants to see Tyler Perry Studios. You know what I mean? And things like that. But as far as in DeKalb, I don't know. I don't have. I feel like I should look up something. I should have had that ready.
No, that's okay, because I know, like you said, the Civil Rights Museum, the World of Coke is, like when we first moved here, we took, it's like everybody, when they came, want to go to the World of Coke. You're starting to get tired of going to the World of Coke, but I can see why outsiders, because Atlanta and Coke is synonymous. Right.
And then you see it's again showing the international aspect of these brands. We have these international brands here that are based in Atlanta, and people don't, UPS and, just all of the different brands that are international brands. And I think when you look post-Olympics, the Olympics is when I think really started changing with regards to this being an international city, and then we've got the World Cup coming this summer. So hopefully people will really begin to change how they see the South, the newness of the South, and who's really here, who makes up the population, who is contributing to the population, who's contributing to the development and the advancement of our communities, and that it is a diverse international population here.
Very true. I mean, Atlanta is, DeKalb is.
Yeah.
Gwinnett. I mean, all these are like the main international hub for Atlanta.
Yeah, and
for the South.
And it's the South, because even outside of Atlanta, like Metro Atlanta has grown so much. When I first moved to Atlanta in the late 80s, it was just, for me, I knew about the Atlanta child murders and I knew about the civil rights era, and that is all I knew about Atlanta. and the perception of northern Black people of the South is very, you better watch yourself, you better, and then I get here and I see the LGBT community and I see Monica Kaufman and I see, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, this is more liberal than Philadelphia in a lot of ways. So I had to change my views of what I thought the South was when I got here. And now Metro Atlanta has just grown into, what is it, like number 6 now or something? No, maybe not number 6, but it was like in the top 20 when I got here.
I think we might be in the top 10 now.
And I think it surpassed Philadelphia, like as far as Metro Atlanta is concerned. And then when you talk about Macon and Athens and Columbus, Augusta and all these places, again, that have film festivals.
Right.
And the broadening of the population is amazing.
You think DeKalb could pull off its own film festival?
Yeah. I mean, I think anyone can. There is a need for what is the niche, what is the scope of what we're doing and what are we saying that's different from what other film festivals are doing. I would love to see, more of the film festivals actively support each other, where you'll see people go to different festivals and everything. I've never been to Rome Film Festival, and that's like on my bucket list. I really want to go to Rome. But it's really, how are we representing the community? How are we representing DeKalb? Is it that it has to be shot here? Does it have to be, produced by somebody, who on the team is from DeKalb? How we wish to represent the community.
Well, the reason I brought that up is Madam CEO Lorraine Cochran-Johnson from DeKalb County, we're launching an arts group called Arts DeKalb. And inside of that, we're going to do a month-long jazz festival. Mm-hmm. That will be a signature event. But we're also looking at, of course, all these different arts type concepts, and one of them is, of course, film. And I know us as a bureau, we're bringing in an international film series that's going to be part of Mexico City, Montreal, and here in DeKalb, the only 3 locations in North America. So we're trying to branch into things like that.
Well, I think what's really important is the artist, right? The actual artist, and for them to have a place, as many places to show their work, as many places for their work to be appreciated and to be seen by as many people as possible. So if we can increase the opportunities for people to have places to submit. And again, I feel like the South, the history being agricultural, the arts has not really been, it hasn't been a primary concern and a primary focus of support. And yet, what got everybody through the pandemic?
Right.
What gets us through everything? We listen to music, we watch TV, we read books, we redesign our homes. I bought a new comforter, or you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Everything is connected to the arts, and we need to really value that as a society, because the arts is what will live on. Once we're all gone, the arts is what survives.
That's so true. So I want to thank you for being on the show. It's been a great pleasure meeting you. Plus, it's our first celebrity. Right. So I'm excited about that, being on the show. And thank you. And just wish you and your husband's company and your son in Australia right now. Yeah. He needs to bring us some Bluntstone boots home.
Okay, I'll put that on the list.
So thank you for being on the show. And we look forward to talking with you and kind of following your career. And want to thank you all for watching or listening on any of your favorite podcast channels. Be sure to check out our next show. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.